Was this Guardiola's greatest team? It probably was, you know. Where tiki-taka was born. Passing, movement, dribbling, technique, absolutely everything. So I've jumped in charge of Barcelona and I've recreated that tactic to the best of my abilities. There she is. And it smashed up La Liga. So what you saw there was the Real Madrid game, and we had good results all the way through. In fact, we only got knocked out of the Champions League by City, which isn't a disgrace. But if you look at the two games, first away at City, played really well, got a good draw. And then in the home leg, we were absolutely robbed. Look at the match stats. City got a 95th minute winner to knock us out. So I'm really happy with the tactic overall. Go over to YouTube. So that's my channel, and you can see the Legend Do tactics there. And all those tactics were basically built via the same means. I went to the Great Football Made Simple channel. This is such an elite channel for you to use alongside Football Manager. And we've got a couple of videos here that I used under the classic teams section. So you've got Guardiola's tactical evolution, and you've got the tactics behind Barca 2010, 2011, and those are the two that were used. So there is the tactic. You'll notice it's a bit lopsided. This is the Dani Alves role, and here is why I've got him as a complete wingback.
Dani Alves enjoyed a phenomenal offensive season in the build-up and high up the pitch. Abidal tended to be slightly more conservative on the left.
So that's why I've got Cancelo doing the Alves role down the right and starting higher up. He's basically going to try and dominate that right-hand side, whereas the left-hand side, Abidal role, kind of like a extra centre-back in some ways, where he doesn't get as far up, but he's still capable of going up. So that's why I've got him on support rather than defend, but a bit more conservative than the right. Now, a word on the midfield positions. They're probably going to be the most controversial options, but it's just my opinion. And it's why I haven't got Busquets to halfback, and why I haven't got 8 and 6 as advanced playmakers, because they drop back a lot as well. So I wanted them up and down, up and down. So that's why I've gone central midfield automatic, but with some clear player instructions. This is what this guy says, and I quite agree with it.
When they were now higher up the pitch, the midfield took over, with 3 maestros, each of them press resistant and capable of playing quick passes into tight regions.
If he's a halfback, he's going to drop in between 3 and 14, so that's why I'm going to go with defensive midfield.
They were also just as comfortable going backward to open up bigger spaces between the lines.
And that's why I wanted them to be central midfielders, because they go back as well as forward. I didn't want them getting stuck too far up, close to 10, 7 and 17, if that makes sense. So that's why I've got them on auto with some player instructions to basically make them into playmakers as well, take more risks, dribble, get further forward, roam, move into channels. But having them as central midfielders means they will come back as well with the DM. The DM, by the way, simple, keep him simple. Busquets not doing too much, just putting his foot in. A lot of these guys have got to tackle harder on to make it more FM friendly as well.
However, Xavi and Iniesta would often stay in position in their respective half spaces. This meant that their opposite numbers would be forced to stay just as wide,
moving into channels, so just pushing them out that little bit wider,
giving the centre a bit more space. This space would be filled by Messi dropping deeper. If the defensive midfielder picked up Messi, Barca had a 4 versus 3 or 2 advantage, and one of their midfielders could move higher to take advantage of the space higher up the pitch or to find a pocket.
Again, why I've got them automatic to match the same mentality. So if I go back to the team, they're on auto, but they will match the attacking mentality. If I click on them there and you go to edit, you can see mentality is very attacking. So in possession, we'll get up there. You'll notice I've got a DLF and not a false 9. I tried, guys. I tried to make false 9 work, but he just was too passive. He wasn't involved enough. So the Messi role, I've made a deep line forward. He still gets super deep. He'll still jump in there loads of the time. And these two go way past them. In fact, if I look at someone like Gundogan, he ended up with 20 goals, for example, for the season. So it does work. It's just not as sexy maybe as a false 9.
As we can see, this meant Barcelona's attack could be quite narrow at times. But on the right-hand side, Dani Alves alone can make up for this.
Like we said, complete wing back, and that's why I've got him starting higher up so he can get further up faster. And look at 7 and 17, really tucked in, which means in FM realms, we have them as inside forwards, both of them. So they'll stay wide, but they'll come in, especially when Dani Alves bombs up that side like Cancelo's gonna. Rafinha will find himself infield an awful lot.
On the left, when Maxwell played, he could also provide width and crosses to a lesser degree.
So if you want a version 2, you could change that Abidal role to wing-back attack if you want. So if you're struggling to break a team down, sometimes they switch their fullback, so you can do that as well.
But when it was Abidal, instead he moved slightly higher to this region, and Iniesta was comfortable drifting wide.
So that is why we've got these PIs on Abidal, the left back role. So we want him to cut inside, so that's exactly what we do. Cut inside with ball and sit narrower. So Abidal will sit narrower. If we're going to do the alternative version, we'd have him as a wing back as well. And then you've got more attacking version as well.
The first 2/3 of the build-up were highly structured.
That's why another reason why I've gone for central midfielders and not advanced playmakers. They don't roam around as much, so it keeps that structure. So you've got 2 CMs and a DM, nice and tight.
But in the final third, they were free to find the most dangerous situations they could.
I did try to put roam for position on all 3 of the forwards. Didn't really work.
And that they did, scoring 95 goals, only behind Real Madrid.
So 95 goals for Pep's team. Our team, would you Adam and Eve it? We scored 95 as well. I just realised that now. That's pretty cool. But we were top scorers in the league by 11. That's blooming mad that. We've got exactly the same goals. That's really cool.
On the defensive end, when they did lose the ball, it was usually high up the pitch. The centre-backs would have had a high line, and so many players were in close proximity, meaning
So that's why we've got much high defensive line.
that they had short distances to pass, and thus allowing quicker passing.
High tempo. Some people may say it was lower tempo, but it seems that higher tempo is the way to go. Them short, sharp passes.
But it also allowed the famous 6-second rule.
6-second rule, it basically means counter press. You lose the ball, you get it back. So for us, that's what meant the much higher defensive line. So it basically matches what you just saw. A big press to help out the 6-second rule. And we've also got the counter press when you win the ball back. When you lose the ball, you smash it in and win it back as fast as possible.
When they lost the ball, they could immediately suffocate the opposition, pressuring the man before he has time to look around the pitch.
There you go. Counter press. Everyone going for it much more often. Press in as soon as you've lost the ball. That's why it's subjective. If you have counter on, you probably don't need counter in the team instructions. I've just got it on to make it a bit more FM friendly. Take it off, see how it goes. It works with counter on for us, but you probably don't need counter on.
But the high line was a disadvantage at times.
This is cool. This is basically going to tell you, you are going to be susceptible to the ball over the top. And a couple of times we struggled against counter-attacking teams for that reason, but that's what happens when you play a much higher defensive line. So that is how I came up with that Pep replication, dudes. Obviously, some tweaks to allow for FM. We do still want to win at the game. If it was being a totally genuine replication, that would be a false 9. That would be a false 9 because he drops deep. But the deep line forward does drop deep enough. But it's a great fun tactic. We used it with Braga as well to give it a bit of a test. Now, I just simulated this one, so I just slapped it in and left attacking on. You can see some big wins down there, but some big defeats as well away to Feyenoord. And the reason that is probably the biggest tip for this tactic, and it's this. When you are the better team and you're confident, let it flow. Attacking mentality, let it go. But just remember that your attacking mentality affects those 2 central midfielders. So we're attacking mentality now, so your central midfielders have got very attacking. If I was to take charge of Braga, who are not an elite team, and I was away to the likes of Feyenoord in the Champions League, I would probably drop this down to balance, which will make your central midfielders be a bit more conservative. And if you look at it now, they're balanced. Their mentality is balanced. They're not going to bomb forward as much. So if you're in charge of them, that would be the change I would make. Don't go attacking all the time, just on those ones you're expected to win or you're at home. But despite only holidaying it, they did finish third, not too far off the top 2, and they did win the Portuguese Cup and got to the final of the other cup. So if I was in charge of that team, switching between balance and attacking, I'd be pretty confident of getting that league title as well. That's the video, dudes. Now, the player instructions are on the way if you want to copy them down again. If you just want the direct download, I'll see you in the Patreon. Some cool stuff going on in there.